Hello friends, in this video I will discuss various types of data structures in R programming. Firstly, we will understand the meaning of data structures. So, to store data in computer there are various ways, and to store data within the R programming we are using data structures. With the help of data structures or these ways we can save the space, time and complexity of the different tasks. Generally, the data is organized by the dimensionality, that is whether the data is one dimensional, two dimensional or n dimensional. Also, on the basis of heterogeneity and homogeneity, we can store data. In R, there are 6 types of data structures named as vectors, lists, data frames, matrices, arrays and factors. So we will see all these data structures one by one. The first data structure in R programming is vector. Vectors are one-dimensional data structures and they are homogeneous in nature. That means they can store similar or identical elements, or we can say the elements whose data type is similar, they can be stored in vectors. Generally, C function, that is concatenation function, is used to create vectors in R programming. Say for example, there are two vectors x and y. So x is the numeric vector because it has stored 4 elements 1, 2, 3, 4 and all 4 are numeric. Similarly, second vector is a string vector which is y. It has 5 elements a, e, I, o, u. So it is a vector of vowels. And to create a string vector, we need to use generally single quote or double quote to store elements. The second data structure in R programming is list. List is also one dimensional but it is heterogeneous in nature. That means it can store elements of various data types. There can be a list of vectors or list of matrices or list of characters, or a combination of vectors, matrices, characters, etc. can also be a list. List function is used in R to create list. Say for example, there is a list L. It has 5 elements x, 4, 1L, 3.45 and true. So all 5 are of different nature. X is character, 4 is numeric, 1L is integer, 3.45 is numeric and true is logical element. The next data structure in R programming is data frames. Data frames are two-dimensional and heterogeneous in nature. Generally, data structures are used to store tabular data. That is why they are most popular data objects in R programming. We can define data frames as these are the list of vectors of same length. But there are certain constraints of data frames. The very first one is a data frame must have column names and every row should have a unique name. Second, each column must have the identical number of elements. Next, each element in a single column must be of same data type. And lastly, different columns may have different data types. So, to create data frames in R programming, data.frame function is used. Say for example, we have 3 vectors ID, name and marks. All 3 have 3 items in it. So to create data frame in R programming, we can put all 3 vectors together and can create data frame. So suppose we have data frame with the name df, and with the help of data.frame function we have put all 3 vectors inside it to create data frame. The fourth data structure in R programming is matrix. Matrix is a rectangular arrangement of number of rows and columns. Matrix in R programming are two-dimensional, but these are homogeneous data structures. To create matrix in R programming, we need to use matrix function. We need to pass certain parameters in matrix function to create matrix in R programming. The very first one is we need to pass set of elements as a vector. Then we need to define how many number of rows and columns we need to create in matrix. And one thing we need to keep in our mind, if we are creating matrix, so by default the elements would be ordered as per the column. But if we want to arrange elements or we want to order the elements in the row wise, so we need to give the parameter by row as true. Say for example, we want to create a matrix M with the 4 elements and we want to keep the order of the elements according to row. So we can create that with the help of matrix function by passing a vector of 4 elements, by defining 2 rows and 2 columns, and by keeping by row as true to create this type of matrix in R. After running the syntax, this type of matrix we can get in R. The fifth data structure in R programming is array. Arrays are homogeneous data structures, but they are multidimensional. That means we can create more than 2 dimensions with the help of arrays. To create array in R, we need to use array function. Say for example, we want to create a array of dimension 2, 2 and 2. So we need to pass 8 elements as a vector, and with the help of this dimension we would be able to create 2 matrices. The last data structure in R programming is factors. Factors are the data objects which are used to categorize the data and store it as labels. They are generally useful for storing categorical data. And factors can store both strings as well as integers. To create factors in R, we need to use factor function. Say for example, if we want to create a categorical variable gender in R with the help of factor function, we can do that by passing a vector of male and female inside it. And when we will call this gender variable, R will return us the number of elements male and female along with the labels male and female. So friends, this way I tried to explain data structures in R programming. I hope you will find this video useful. Thank you so much for watching. Stay connected.